Hello, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the December 3rd, 2024 Marine Resources Commission to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Associate Member Branson, followed by invocation by Associate Member.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now with me, if you don't mind. Father God, we come before you this morning. God, we're thankful to be here. God, we give you thanksgiving. God, you deserve so much thanks, and we thank you for the opportunity to come together as one to help manage what you gave us dominion over. God, we ask your blessings on this time, and it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Welcome, everyone, to the December 3rd meeting. I hope everyone had a relaxing and enjoyable Thanksgiving break. Now we're back to business. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there any corrections, deletions, or changes from the commission members or staff to the current agenda? None from staff, none from members?
Motion to approve as submitted.
Got a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Branch got a second from Mr. Headley. Is anyone opposed? Any opposition? Motion carries unanimously. Minutes. Are there any corrections, deletions, or changes from the commission members or staff on the October 28th, 2024 commission meeting minutes? Staff, is there any minute change to? All right, is there any from the commission? All right, that being said, matters before the commission.
Motion to approve minutes.
Got a motion to approve from Mr. Headley. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Mr. Erskine. I think one abstention. Mr. Hand wasn't here, so we have one abstention. Is there anyone else opposed? Motion carries unanimously with one abstention. All right, we'll swear in VMRC staff and VIM staff that will be speaking or presenting testimony during today's meeting. Do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. All right, Randy, we're moving right along.
Commissioner, members of the commission, good morning. We have 9 page 2 items. I'll be as brief as I can. 5 of them, you are acting as the default wetlands board. 1 case, you're acting as the default beach and dune authority. And the balance of the cases are subacres encroachment permits where the cost exceeds $500,000. And as your chief, I may not act on those administratively, so they're before you. Beginning with item 2A, Weymouth Fane is requesting authorization to install 2 riprap sills totaling 5,600 feet along Deep Creek on Furman Street in the city of Chesapeake. This project requires a VMRC wetlands permit. Item 2B, Joseph Fowlis is requesting authorization to place 120 cubic yards of clean sand upon 1,600 square feet of intertidal wetlands along the Mattaponi River shoreline along Lee Street and West Point. This requires a VMRC wetlands permit, and on the surface that looks odd to place fill in wetlands. What you have is a vegetated wetland with some drowning areas in it where stormwater conveys off the street. They're raising the depressed areas to an elevation that will support wetlands vegetation. Item 2C, Darrell Rhoda is requesting authorization to replace an 11 by 35 foot section of existing concrete boat ramp, install 2 25-foot long timber retaining walls, install and backfill a 52-foot long bulkhead and 2 feet channel of existing bulkhead with 2 10-foot returns, remove an existing bulkhead, put in a 25-foot section of bulkhead lantern of that wall, construct a 45-foot long timber groin along the Rappahannock River shoreline at 327 Riverdale Road in Essex County. This project requires a VMRC wetlands and a subacres permit. Item 2D, Cordell Preciado requests authorization for 600 linear feet of riprap, a maximum 10 feet channel to remain high water, the tow at Almer Lane along the James River in Chesterfield County. That project requires a VMRC wetlands permit. Item 2E, Scott Elias requests authorization to replace 2 low-profile timber groins extending 40 feet channelward of an existing bulkhead along the Rappahannock River in Essex County. That project requires a VMRC wetlands permit. Item 2F, Metro Machine is requesting authorization to remove an existing floating pier and construct a new 370-foot long floating pier at the General Dynamics shipyard adjacent Ligon Street along the southern branch of Elizabeth River in Norfolk. That's a VMRC subacreage permit. Item 2G, Loudoun County is requesting authorization to construct a new clear span bridge over a 40-foot section of Broad Run adjacent to West Wind Drive in Loudoun County. That requires a subacreage permit. Item 2H, NASA Wallops Flight Facility is requesting authorization to conduct 3 barge landing tests on the beach adjacent to launch pad O-B for the transport of a rocket component to the flight facility along the Atlantic Ocean in Accomack County. Here you're acting as the Beach and Dunes Authority. Accomack County has never adopted the Beach and Dunes Ordinance. And lastly, item 2I, NGL Energy Partners is requesting authorization to mechanically maintenance dredge 20,000 cubic yards of state-owned land on an as-needed basis to a maximum depth of minus 37 feet from the southern branch of Elizabeth River, adjacent to commercial facility on South Military Highway in the city of Chesapeake. The dredge spools will be barged to the Craney Island Dredge Material Management Area or an alternatively an approved upland facility, and that project requires a VMRC subacreage permit. That was a quick run, sir.
Thank you, Randy. Is there any comments, Mr. Branson?
Yes, sir. I have a question, Chief, about the Wallops Flight Facility, item 2H.
Yes.
It says 3 barge landing tests. Are they planning on doing this in the future permanently, or is this just some test to see how they can land rocket components?
It is a test. There, we do have the representative from NASA Wallops Island today. There is I believe it was referred to as the Southern Expansion Plan. I'm going to get that wrong, but there's a much greater effort under study that would look at everything from vehicles moving up and down the beach to, transporting rocket components, and that's under a greater environmental analysis right now that may yield future applications before you, based on what they learn from whether or not this will actually work.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you, Randy. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on any of these page 2 items? Anyone in the audience wishes to speak on any of the page 2 items? All right, that being said, matters before the commission.
Move to approve.
Got a motion to approve page 2 items from Associate Member Branson. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Associate Member Erskine. Any further discussion? Is there anyone opposed to any of the items and/or the motion that's been made and properly seconded? No opposition being seen. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Randy. All right, moving on. There are no consent agenda items. So we're moving on to closed session with council. Do we need a closed session?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. No need for that. Randy, you're up again.
Okay, this is request by Vladimir Arana to construct a dual slip 33-foot by 37-foot open-sided boathouse adjacent to an existing private pier at their property on Cypress Drive in the Chickahominy River in James City County. Project is protested by the adjacent property owner. We are located pretty good ways up the Chickahominy River. Up the Chickahominy River near Lenexa. You can see Route 60 just to the north here. The mouth of the Chick is here in the James. That's Jamestown Island. As you can see, this reach of the Chickahominy is heavily developed. Lots and lots and lots of piers and boathouses. Mr. Arana, whose lot's highlighted in green, does have an existing pier and an uncovered lift. The project is protested by the adjacent property owner immediately upstream, as it was when he applied and came before the commission for a single slip boathouse in July of 23. In July of 23, the commission did approve the single slip boathouse. He did not construct it, so now he's back before you wanting to build a dual slip boathouse. Mr. Ware has essentially said that he doesn't give anyone permission to be on his property, and no one should be working within his riparian area. Those are his comments. This is Mr. Ware's pier here, and this is his lot. The applicant did provide a survey of their property that included their pier as well as the property and the pier of Mr. Ware. You can see the boathouse will be built on the downstream side of the existing pier, well away from Mr. Ware's property. Again, just another project drawing they provided with the boathouse on the downstream side of the existing pier. Cross-sectional drawing showing the dual slip roof that will cover that boat and this slip right behind it. Another angle, that boat, the roof will come right down over that boat and cover this slip as well. We did walk, I say we, Brad Reams and my staff did walk the property with the protestant, Mr. Ware. You can see the shared property line. We stood on Mr. Ware's pier, the protestant, and took a photograph of Mr. Rana's pier. You know, significant difference between the two. So I'm pretty certain only a civil court can determine it, but we do not believe that the proposed boathouse will be in anyone's riparian area other than Mr. Rana's. In summary, the pier and proposed boathouse are located centrally on the applicant's property. If the protestant, Mr. Ware, believes his riparian rights are being encumbered, then he should seek a riparian apportionment of the waterway adjacent to the two properties and have that matter adjudicated by the local circuit court. Had this application not been protested, we would have administratively issued the sub-acres permit as it appears to be an appropriate and water-dependent request. Accordingly, after evaluating the merits of the project against the concerns expressed by those in opposition, and after considering all the factors contained in 28.2.1205 of the code, we will recommend approval of the project as proposed, sir.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions? Mr. Erskine?
Randy, thank you.
Yes.
The other adjacent property on Shiver, I guess it is, did you have any response or comment from?
I
that
believe, Carla, do we have their signed release?
They chose not to return it.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
They chose not to return it.
Okay, so we did write them a letter, and we do that for every single roof that's proposed in the state of Virginia. If we don't have a signed release, we send a letter advising them that they have 14 days to comment, otherwise we'll proceed as if they are not in objection. So, and that's the standard operating procedure for us, so we would have done that. And Carla, the agent who's here, it's her practice to also put those forms in their hands. Sometimes the people return them signed, sometimes they do not.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions? Randy?
Thank you, Randy. Was Mr. Ware in objection to the dock being built in the first place?
I don't know that. I'm not certain. I'm sorry, I don't know. He did object to the single slip boathouse approximately a year ago.
Any more questions? Mr. Branson?
Thank you, Chief. The question about the riparian rights asserted by Mr. Ware, in 2023, when he first objected, that was the basis of his objection at the time, same as this application?
Yes, sir.
Was there a riparian apportionment done by the circuit court?
We're not aware of any apportionment being done by either party.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from the commission? Thank you, Randy. Is the applicant or representative of the applicant present and wish to speak at this time? You the applicant? Come forward, please. Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
That's right.
State your name for the record in the microphone.
Vladimir Arena, applicant for 7671 Cypress Drive. I just want to answer the questions to him if he applied for the original dock. He didn't have any objection, but it was not me, the owner. It was a previous owner. So I feel like more likely it's a little bit personal what he has with me, and that's where the objection comes from. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Is there
Any
any
other
questions?
questions?
Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Erskine?
Sir, did you communicate with your other adjacent property owner?
Yeah,
neighbor
yeah,
next door?
I don't have anything against him. Yeah, I like the guy, but the way he thinks is hard to make and understand what he say doesn't make sense. He say my dock is his. If he sue me, he's gonna be, I give it, handle it to him. That's
But
what
in
he said.
terms of your other adjacent neighbor
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
other side?
Terry, yeah, they don't have any problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Questions? Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this matter, for or against? Anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this matter? Going once? We won't even waste anybody's time. It's gone. Matters before the commission. Mr. Erskine.
I'd make a motion to accept staff recommendation, approve
A
the
motion to
project as
accept staff
Second.
recommendation
A second.
from Mr. Erskine, and a second from Mr. Branson. Any further discussion from the commission? All right, that being said, is there any opposition to this motion to accept staff recommendations on this project that has been properly seconded? Any opposition? Motion carries unanimously. Randy, looks like you're up again. Randy, you're busy today.
Yes, sir. I'm waiting for my lump of coal.
Or bag of
I was
switches,
hoping
right?
you'd give me that opportunity. This is the Risby Family Partnership. They're asking for a single-slip boathouse, 16 by 28, as part of a statutorily authorized private pier proposal at Nanzatico Lane on Nanzatico Bay in King George County. I didn't know we had a Nanzatico Bay till I looked it up. It's protested by the adjacent property owner. This is essentially an embayment of the Rappahannock River just below the Port Royal Bridge, well, the 301 bridge. The shoreline it's fairly agricultural up this part of the world, but there are homes. The plan is to build the pier right behind this residence. Across the river, you can see that there are piers and boathouses just across the river. This is an application drawing submitted by the agent. And you can see the home. It's basically going to be built right off the downstream edge of the existing home. This is the plan view. The pier is statutorily authorized. You're here today for the boathouse, which is basically a pretty modestly sized boathouse. The code allows up to 700 square feet under the statute. This is 448. Cross-sectional drawings. It is protested by the upstream property owner, Mr. Copen. Mr. Copen lives in this home and owns this lot, but he also is co-owner of the lot in red, so he's technically adjacent property owner. He has two concerns, is that the project will impact the historic value of the applicant's property and that the boathouse is unnecessary. This is a view from the applicant's yard looking down the river. We're down on the shoreline now. You can see the staked alignment of the pier. Looking from that point straight upriver towards the protestant. And now we're standing on the protestant's property looking back in the direction of the property, and we're about 850 feet upriver from the proposed boathouse. In the final slide, this is just a plan view drawing laid on the slide. The pier will come out just out, from the edge of the downstream reach of the home. But you're really here, and you're here for the boathouse, not for the pier. I measured it. It's about 550 feet from the proposed pier and boathouse up to the first residence, and about 850 feet to the second one. We did meet on the property on November the 7th in an attempt to, resolve the conflict, if you will. We met, we spoke to the Department of Historic Resources based on Mr. Copen's concerns, and they have advised in writing on November the 1st that they have no objection to this project. We shared that with Mr. Copen. However, he maintained his position regarding the historic value of the property and that the boathouse is unnecessary, but he did say on site that he would respect the commission's decision. So in summary, section 28.2, 1203A5 of the code provides statutory authorization for private piers, including open-sided boathouses measuring 700 square feet or less, which are designed to cover a single boat slip or lift, provided they are not objected to by the adjacent property owner and allowed by local ordinances. The proposed boathouse size measures 448 square feet in size. If it had not been protested, we would have considered this statutorily authorized along with the pier. While we are sensitive to the protestants' concerns, the proposed open-sided boathouse is a common and reasonable request from a private riparian property owner.
Thank you, Randy. Any questions for Randy from the commission?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Randy. Is the applicant or representative present and wish to speak on this matter? Please come forward, sir. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and the microphone for the record.
Brian Fletcher.
Proceed.
I just wanted to add to what Randy said and clear up something about the Historical Society. We did speak with the historical people, and there's nothing, they have nothing to do with what's in the water, only the house. So I think Randy did a good job. We worked with the agents here at VMRC. They did a great job helping us get where we are. We've downsized some things, downsized the boathouse, moved the floating dock, and order to accommodate everyone, and we're within the parameters of the law, and we just asked you to approve it.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Mr. Branson?
Mr. Fletcher, are you the agent or the marine contractor? What is your role here?
Both.
Okay.
Yes,
all right,
sir.
Thank you.
Any more questions, Mr. Erskine?
Sir, did you, you mentioned that you had made some concessions and downsized something. Could you describe what you downsized?
We just downsized the floating dock, made it narrower, and we raised the dock up a little bit, higher. And I think we downsized the boathouse a little bit from the start. We just rearranged some things, trying to make everybody, make it suitable for everyone. Not spread out. The floating dock was down closer towards the landward about halfway, so we moved it where the boathouse and the L-head and everything's all in one spot, so it's not clobbering up. If there was a view that way, that view is towards the management area, so I don't think anything will ever be built over that way anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this item? All right, that being said, matters before the commission.
Move to approve.
Got motion to approve.
Second.
From Associate Member Branson, a second from Associate Member Headley. Any further discussion? All right, that being said, I have a motion properly made to approve staff recommendation on this project. It's been properly seconded. Is there any opposition to this? Had a vote? All right, let's do a vote. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, Randy, up again.
We're now moving to Matthews County. Where Mr. Ray Lewis is requesting authorization to install a 14-foot by 22-foot open-sided gazebo, not a boathouse, a gazebo, onto a proposed statutorily authorized private pier along Horn Harbor at 371 Perry Road in Matthews County. The project is protested by adjacent property owner. We're in that second embayment to the west in Horn Harbor, just downstream from the Matthews County Public Boat Ramp. This is the applicant's property here. The property is highlighted in lime green. I'm gonna flip that around for you to see that they are proposing to locate the pier 66 feet off of the shared property line. And there will be a small gazebo built at the end of the pier. That's a cross-sectional drawing, as well as the plan view. Project is protested by Mrs. Sandra Diggs, the adjacent property owner immediately downstream. She's written a series of things that she objects to that include that her view will be obstructed, that the proposed 80-foot pier exceeds the court-determined line of navigability, that the protestant's pier and her pier and the pier just to the south are only 60 feet long, and therefore the 80-foot long pier is too long, that the application is ambiguous, contains errors, and I like this one. VMRC as an agency is incapable of following the law, and we should be replaced with a new agency dedicated to recovering and preserving waterfront land. Those are her words. We did go to the property. Her pier is highlighted, and here's her pier here. While the pier to the south might be 60 foot long, the neighbor's pier to the north is over 180 feet long. And the applicant, whose staked alignment is right there, is asking for an 80-foot pier. This is a PVC marker that marks the shared property line. We're 66 feet offset from the property with the proposal. Looking back from that stake towards, you can see two stakes in the marsh. That's where the pier would begin and go out. And so Mrs. Diggs's property is here, and we're 66 feet offset from it with the proposed pier and gazebo. I believe that's my final slide. So I just highlighted again the lengths of the piers. This is the applicant's pier, which is statutorily authorized. We did call the clerk of court, given Mrs. Diggs' remarks about a port apportionment line navigability. And I'd like to recognize the court on the record. She spent 2 hours pouring through her records, and we could not find any such court apportionment. So we've done our best. We're not aware of any riparian apportionment done in this area. The pier to the north is clearly, twice the length of the proposal. So this proposal for an open-sided gazebo, which is before you, we think is acceptable. So in summary, staff has carefully considered Mr. Lewis's request for a private pier and open-sided gazebo. After visiting the site and extensive communication with the protestant and the applicant's agent, Mr. Wade Webb, we have concluded that the pier is located on Mr. Lewis's property and appears to reasonably extend into his riparian area. The commission's sole responsibility in this case is to consider the open-sided gazebo portion of the project as described in 22-1203A5 of the code. We note that if Ms. Diggs had not objected to the proposal, we would have approved the gazebo by statute.
Thank you, Randy. Is there any questions from the commission? Thank you, Ray. Is there anyone in the audience or is the applicant or agent for the applicant present wish to speak on this matter, please? Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Please state your name for the record in the microphone.
Wade Webb, Blackwater Pier and Dock. I'm the contractor agent. It's a very simple gazebo, shelter roof. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the commission? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this matter? All right. That being said, matters before the commission.
Move to approve.
Got a motion to approve from Mr. Branson. Do you have a second?
A second.
Got a second from Mr. Preston. Is there any further discussion? Have a motion properly made by Mr. Branson, properly second by Mr. Preston. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Randy. All right. Public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? Please come forward at this time.
Well, you gotta wait for them.
Yeah. I have a strong suspicion I don't have to swear you in for this, so go
No,
ahead.
sir, you do not.
Proceed, Ms. Heskey.
Good morning, Mr. Commissioner, Associate Commissioners. I'm Kim Husky with Cherrystone Aqua Farms, here representing the Board of Directors of Shellfish Growers of Virginia, and just wanted to make an introduction. Jordan Kravanik is our new Executive Director of Shellfish Growers of Virginia. She will be speaking to you in the future on any shellfish-related issues that might arise here at the Commission. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Nice to meet everybody.
All right. Yes, sir. Please state your name for the record.
John Eanes.
Stay in the microphone, please.
Yep. John Eanes.
Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but truth, so help you God?
Yep.
Proceed.
Trying to get my oyster license back. I lost it because I didn't renew it, and I didn't know that I had to buy it, even though I was not going to use it. I've been doing aquaculture for a number of years and did not buy my state oyster license, and just didn't know that I needed to buy it every year, whether I was going to use it or not.
Any questions from the commission? Mr. Headley?
Mr. Eanes, do you remember the last time that you did bought it, or how many years has it lapsed?
Probably 2019, 2020, something like that.
Another question.
Yes, sir, Ms. Hadley.
You said you've been in aquaculture for a little while. Do you do anything else on the water besides aquaculture?
Yes, I crab some.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions from the commission? Ms. Cullen?
Any previous violations with the commission?
No, ma'am.
That being said, I mean, matters before the commission other than just public comment. Go
I
ahead.
got one more question. Mr. Eanes, if the commission deems that you would get it back, most of our requirements have been that you pay your back license and fees for the years that you've missed. Would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely. Yep.
Is that a motion, Mr. Erskine?
I just have a follow-up question. You had mentioned the crab license. Are there any other licenses that you hold? And if you do, did any of those lapse, or was it just the oyster license?
It was just the oyster license, yeah.
But you do own other licenses besides the crab license?
Gillnet license, yeah.
Any more questions?
Make a motion that we approve for Mr. Eanes to get his oyster license back as long as he pays the back years that he missed.
I got a motion to approve, reinstate his license, provided he pays back previous year's lapse. I'd have to defer to Adam on how many years that would be. Chief Kenyon, Shellfish.
I'm not sure how many years that would be. We could look up his license history and make sure that we pay back those appropriate.
I think we would need that information. I believe the board would want that information prior, because missing it for 2 years or 3 years is different than not buying it since 2014 or something like that, you know? So can you get us that information before we act on this?
I certainly can.
Please do. Is it okay, council, if I table this right now and see?
Yes, sir.
So we'll bring you back up as soon as we get that information to see. I want to make sure that they have the facts for the commission before we make a move. We're sitting at a motion to approve from you. All right, is there anyone else that wishes to speak during public comment? Now, do I have to change the agenda in order to come back to that?
I don't believe so, no.
All right, we'll just table that.
Sir, was there a motion?
Yeah, there was a motion from Mr. Headley to approve his previous years, but we don't know how many years that was.
Right, so do you need to deal with that motion, or it just died for lack of a second?
I was going to pause right there and come back to the motion once you have the evidence to be able to give you the proper evidence to make whether or not you want to second it or let it die.
Okay.
In my opinion, we're essentially paused at the discussion phase.
Right, yes. So you want to move on to the next one or wait a few minutes?
Whatever you want to do.
Let's move along. All right, Josh, you're up.
Alrighty. Good morning, Commissioner, members of the Commission. My name is Joshua McGilly. I'm a member of the Fisheries Management Division of VMRC. I'm here to do two different things today. First, starting with a petition brought to you from the Coastal Conservation Association of Virginia, acronym CCA, regarding hickory shad. The slide that you see up is a full kind of overview of the petition process. I believe we've only done one of these before. So we'll start with the overview of the petition process itself, kind of outlining the full thing. The petitioner, Wayne Young, from CCA, who's in the back, he will give a short presentation. I will come back up with a staff kind of response presentation, time for commissioner questions, public comment, petitioner, closing comments, and then the commission vote. So the petition process is in accordance with Executive Order 19. An individual or a group, they submit a petition to amend or repeal a regulation. Within 14 days, the agency sends the request to the Registrar of Regulations. There's a 21-day public period in Town Hall for public comment. Agency issues a written decision within 90 days, kind of where we're at today. You, VMRC Commission, here's the petition, and it kind of comes to a yes or a no answer from you guys. No, the petition kind of ends, but the petitioner does have the option to submit an appeal. Or if there's the answer of yes, then we go down kind of a path later on of regulatory amendments, public hearing, kind of with your guidance towards the end. So, Mr. Young, if you'd like to come up. You can either just hit enter or down, and it'll end on that slide as well.
Which is the,
That or that, yeah.
oh, okay.
Please raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Wayne Young, and I'm a volunteer representing Coastal Conservation Association, Virginia. I'm accompanied by Robert Allen, president of CCA Virginia and CCA Northern Virginia. The issue we brought forward in our petition for your consideration is the uncontrolled harvest of hickory shad from Virginia's tidal waters. There are compelling needs for a controlled recreational harvest as follows. All 4 East Coast shad species experienced declines in historic abundance. American shad were found depleted by a 2020 stock assessment and peer review report. American and hickory shad populations share the same waters and are too low in abundance to support a commercial fishery in Virginia waters, except for a minor permitted gillnet bycatch of American shad. The hickory shad is the least studied and least understood shad species, and the abundance needed to maintain a self-supporting stock of hickory shad hasn't been determined. The uncontrolled recreational harvest of hickory shad is an issue for Virginia and the Commission because it removes spawners needed to maintain a self-supporting population. It diminishes the stock's contribution to coastwise species abundance, and it adversely affects the restoration of American shad due to undetected bycatch of American shad during the hickory shad spawning run by recreational fishermen who can't tell the difference. And also, all recreational takes of hickory shad in the Chesapeake Bay region have shifted to the annual Virginia hickory shad runs because only Virginia allows a take. We're also concerned that known opportunistic predation by invasive blue catfish on forage species, white perch, striped bass larvae, and juveniles, also targets shad to an undetermined extent, increasing the pressure on the hickory shad stock. The resolution we're asking you to approve is a guardrail to conserve the hickory shad stock by replacing the unrestricted recreational harvest with a managed recreational fishery. We request that the board initiate management by establishing a daily creel limit. We appreciate FMAC's consideration of our request earlier this year and support FMAC's recommendation of a daily creel limit of 10 across all gear types. Establishing a creel limit and normal regulatory oversight practices does the following. It provides a margin of safety for uncertain abundance,
predation, and changing climatic conditions. It aligns hickory shad management with Department of Wildlife Resources hickory shad regulations for Virginia interior rivers which connect to the ocean outside of the Chesapeake Bay watershed. And it better supports shad restoration programs. There were 125 distinct public comments for our requested regulatory action during the Virginia regulatory town hall process. All were favorable to conserving hickory shad, and here are some excerpts that highlight the concerns of those who made comments. A Mattaponi River resident wrote, "I live on the Mattaponi River and have seen the populations of white and hickory shad drop in recent years. As our population increases and more people are recreationally fishing, the pressure increases on all our fish populations." A Falmouth Flats fly fisherman wrote, "The annual shad migration on the Rappahannock each spring is an extraordinary event many in our community look forward to, plan for, and spend money in the local economy. Adopting a consistent science-based approach to hickory shad management across Virginia's waterways would help ensure the long-term sustainability of this important anadromous species." Friends of the Rappahannock wrote, "The hickory shad migration in the Rappahannock River remains relatively strong but faces increased pressure as runs in other rivers decline." Then there's this from a professional fishing guide. "Every year we catch and release thousands of hickory shad. They are a crucial species for how me and the guides in my operation make a living. These fish have stream fidelity. They come back to the stream they were born. We have nearly eliminated the population of American shad from the James River. We cannot afford to lose another species to overharvesting." And finally, from the James River Association, "By transitioning from unrestricted harvest to a regulated fishery, we can ensure that hickory shad populations remain robust, sustaining not only the species itself, but also the communities and ecosystems that depend on them. A managed fishery informed by the best available data is a necessary step toward preserving this resource for future generations while supporting ongoing shad and herring restoration efforts." And we agree with that. We request the board's favorable consideration and action on our petition for conserving hickory shad. We encourage initiation of the regulatory process as soon as practicable. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, sir. Is there any questions for the presenter? Mr. Branson?
Mr. Young, thank you for coming here today. Could you go back to your slide that shows the different information about moratoriums? I have some questions about that. I'm not sure that's entirely correct. Potomac River Fisheries Commissions allows a harvest of, you talk about American shad, it allows a harvest of up to 1 bushel per day for commercial watermen. So there's not a moratorium other than maybe recreational.
Recreational moratorium, yes, sir.
Yeah, and then states like Maryland also allow a certain amount of American shad to be harvested. It's not
I don't believe so.
one. I know North Carolina does. You don't show it.
North Carolina does have a limit for American shad. They had a restoration program. They also allow a hickory shad take of up to 10. And that's the regulation that DWR follows because the interior rivers discharge through North Carolina.
Nottoway, Meharon, some of the others, I think. But now, in discussion, you brought up the DWR, 10 fish per person per day. Did you consult them? Did you talk with them?
We did not. We just we looked at their website and their rules, and they follow the saltwater jurisdiction. Since they are allowing 10 for North Carolina, we felt that that was a reasonable place to start because we think it will be unfair to go from an uncontrolled take to a moratorium.
But there's no science behind this. There's no stock assessment. There's no
recent stock assessment. There was one, I think, back in 2013 or something, but conditions have changed substantially. So we think we would like to see the commission in the best position to manage the fishery, and the way to do that is to establish a creel limit, but to have a reasonable creel limit because we think it's unfair to go from an uncontrolled take to no take. We don't know what the right answer is. but we think a consistent approach across the state is a place to start.
All right, thank you.
Got another question, Mr. Morris? You done?
I don't, sir.
Any more questions? Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this petition? Please.
I still have the full presentation.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind. Just, you're next, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Not having this, not having the order of your thing in my presentation thing.
Okay, so thought we were, come on, there we go. So now I'm going to give kind of the staff response to the petition presentation. So the petition title, create a daily creel limit to manage the recreational hickory shad fishery in Chesapeake Bay waters and coastal rivers and their tributaries within Virginia. So this has been kind of a long process, and CCA has been very patient with the request. There's a lot up on there. The ones with the stars are the ones I'm going to mention, little boxes. So this was initially brought up by CCA to FMAC in February 2019. Fast forward almost 5 years to February 2024. CCA submitted their first petition, which was then brought back. They redacted it. It was going to go in front of the commission under the normal regulatory process. In May of 2024, public hearing was removed for further administrative review. And then in July of this year, CCA resubmitted this petition, which is the one that we're currently discussing. December 3rd, we were here at the public meeting, and then by the end, we'll have the yes or no answer from the commission. So, I'm not going to reiterate everything that Mr. Wayne has kind of already said, but the issue is with hickory shad and identifying them a lot with American shad. There are ways to identify them that some recreational anglers may or may not know of. They do have different mouth structures that can easily be identifiable. American shad, their mouths kind of come together flush like ours. Hickory shad pretty much have a very large underbite. And then there is a small recreational fishery, maybe not small. There is a recreational fishery in the James and Rappahannock rivers along with some of the other tributaries for hickory shad. Early springs, they come into the rivers. People do them for sport. People do harvest them, though, for bottom bait, for blue catfish, striped bass, etc. The petition had recommendations that these two are verbatim from the petition. I'm just going to read into the record. First is establish a managed recreational hickory shad fishery in the Chesapeake Bay waters, coastal rivers, and tributaries within Virginia, and a daily creel limit informed by and adjusted based on the best available data. And the second portion is the proposed fishery management action is for non-indigenous recreational fishing only. It would not alter commercial fishing regulations or the fishing rights of Native Americans who habitually reside on an Indian reservation or are members of a Virginia recognized tribe. And if the commission decides to move forward and any regulatory changes do take place further down the road, any changes and additions would likely amend Chapter 4 VAC 20-1260, currently titled Pertaining to American Shad. The name, definitions, and then any recreational additions would be amended and put into that regulation, instead of going forward and creating a whole separate hickory shad regulation. The data sources for hickory shad overall are minimal. MRIP, the recreational data source from 1981 to 2023, a whopping 46 trips have been reported, 424 caught, and 23 hickory shad harvested. Commercial harvest is low as well from 2024 to 2014 to 2023. Less than 3,000 pounds of hickory shad are harvested per year in the commercial fishery in Virginia. Primarily in March and April. They are an anadromous species because they come into the rivers, spawn, and then leave. DWR does have the adult spawning migration monitoring program. They electrofish primarily in the James and Rappahannock rivers from late February through early June. This survey's been going on for about 24 years, starting in 2000. In the James River, there's a slow kind of downward CPUE trend noticed in this survey, while the Rappahannock has a slight increasing CPUE trend. And then VIMS also does have a limited fisheries independent data from 1994 to 2024. So there are kind of costs and benefits for implementing what this petition is proposing. So the benefits include it does create a conservative and precautionary recreational bag limit that could coincide with present DWR regulations that Mr. Wayne had mentioned at 10 fish per person. May protect the spawning stock, prevent potential over-harvesting, and it is easily enforceable with just X number of hickory shad allowed per person. No size, no kind of a season associated with that. The drawbacks are, it is a limited information species currently. There are additional regulations that would need to be created within the pre-existing American shad regulation, and then it limits the number of hickory shad anglers can harvest for bait. So VIMS, we have reached out to them. They have kind of put in their input regarding this petition. And the first part is the implementation of a proposed management measure is unnecessary for now. Hickory shad differ from American shad in their life history and biology that sets these two species apart, and their populations are not subject to the same pressure. In the recreational fishery, historical and recent data on the population and stock strength of hickory shad is largely unknown currently. The evidence of the VIMS elucid monitoring program that looks at all shad and herring species suggests relatively consistent runs of hickory shad through time. And then beginning next year in 2025, biological data recorded for all hickory shad encountered in the survey will be used to develop a time series for an index of abundance and other biological characteristics of the spawning run. Then kind of the results from this study will be looked at, and if negative trends are noticed in hickory shad and Virginia tributaries, appropriate management strategies should be revisited. But right now, their first point stands out of implementation is unnecessary for now. So the public comments, like Mr. Wayne said, there were a large number. It has gone in front of FMAC in March. It was a 12 yes to 1 no vote for the proposed petition changes. There was a letter submitted from the Rappahannock Tribe of Virginia, 126 responses through town hall, and then 1 public comment. All of these were in support of the petition. So where we're going to kind of go forward towards the end with the commission decision is, does the commission want to create a precautionary recreational bag limit for hickory shad in state waters? Again, the yes path would be additional guidance for staff to come back through a normal, commission hearing, like a normal regulatory process. Or no, and the makers of the petition may file an appeal, but the decision is not subject to judicial review. VIMS is here. I guess if you guys have any questions for VIMS, I can take any questions about the presentation, and then these are just kind of the remaining steps that we have. So start with commission questions.
Any questions from the commission? Mr. Branson?
Hi, thank you, Josh. I was at the FMAC and a member of FMAC in March, and I don't think FMAC had all the information, certainly didn't have our input from Virginia Institute of Marine Science about the unnecessary need for this. And one of the questions I asked then, and I don't think I got an answer, and you may not be able to answer, and I don't want to speculate, but what was the basis of DWR's decision to set a creel limit of 10 per person?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
There's no science
Yeah,
here
I'm
that
really not
says
sure
that
about
American
it.
shad are in trouble or there's a problem.
Yeah.
We're used to, we should be, managing a fishery with science.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, what I heard at FMAC was didn't like nets, didn't like gill nets, drift nets, didn't want even hand nets, didn't want 2 hooks per person. It was, I heard a lot of that, and I'm not sure about this. It sounds like in our case that we're being asked to put the cart before the horse. We're asking to put a creel limit on a fishery that doesn't have the science to back it up. So, my question is, what is out there for us to management? Is there a management plan at Atlantic States for hickory shad, or any agency, federal
I
or
don't
state?
believe there's any sort of FMP for hickory shad specifically. It may be mentioned along with American shad, but I'm not aware of one.
I mean, this commission is hearing this petition because of Executive Order 19 by the governor, and in that, it calls for an economic impact analysis. So at what level does that get done? By us, by the governor's office? Because what I did after the FMAC meeting in March, in April, I traveled to Richmond to talk to shad charter captains at a sporting goods store up there, and they sent me down to 14th Street Bridge. Evidently the epicenter of a hickory shad fishing in Virginia in the April-May timeframe. And I spoke to a lot of people down there at the 14th Street Bridge and then further downriver from them, and they sustain their families with this fish. In that shad run, they catch them, they salt them, they smoke them, they offer them up to me, thanks no. And so I was a bit moved by that, is that they said, this is our generational, this is what we eat the rest of the year. So I wonder what's gonna happen if we put a 10-fish creel limit for the saltwater reaches of Virginia on this. Those families, are they gonna resort to, I'll take 10, put them in the cooler in the car, go back 10 more, and now we're instituting a culture of breaking the law? I would not want to see that. So, again, my question is, no stock management, no understanding of what the abundance is necessary for sustainment of the fishery. Why would we set a limit? Do we do this with any other fish that you know of?
We're just going forward with the petition process right now,
understand.
yes.
And I can comment on that. It doesn't matter what the petition is,
Yeah.
when they file it, it goes forward, so we.
Yes, I know that. Sorry to put you on the spot, Josh. It's just so rarely we get to see you up here. I
You
thought.
love doing that, Will.
I also just want to emphasize one thing to address the economic analysis question. That is certainly relevant to this and can be considered to this, but a petition is not setting the actual regulation. So the full analysis of this would take place after the regulation was advertised, subject to public comment, subject to, a full commission hearing, just to clarify that.
Yeah, I think the way, what the council was saying too, let you know, is if the commission decides to approve the petition, we have so many days to get it on the agenda for regulation.
Then we'll be coming back to set exactly what we
And you'll be
want.
talking the same thing over.
Yeah, if it's a yes.
And
If it's
there's
no,
and-
then we wouldn't go down
And
that
Josh,
route.
there's no real, other than the 3,000 pounds, which I guess is an incidental catch,
Most
a bycatch of some kind. There's no real commercial market for hickory shad. Gizzard shad, yes.
There's no directed fishery, as far as I know. It likely is just, straight bass people, anybody fishing within these rivers, getting them, and there is a market for them. They are used for bottom fishing bait, along with gizzard shad.
That's been my my feedback from recreational anglers who have a 2-pot license under their saltwater license for crabbing, or neighbors that eat the roe. They generally use them for blue catfish.
So there
or-
is food value to this fish. There is bait value to this fish, and there's sport value to this fish. But it's a small fishery overall.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's all I have, sir.
Mr. Erskine?
Thanks, Josh. I had a question back on your slide that were the summary of the VIMS comments.
That one.
Yeah. So the second to last bullet point there is beginning in 2025 with the biological data. So is that something VIMS, and this may be a question for them, they're taking on, and is it a time series that's going to be developed in terms of 2025 is the time zero, and then they're going to get more data?
Okay. Yes. So they'll move forward with the time series. Like, would they be starting in 2025? Starting in 2025, then starting a time series and seeing from
We're
there.
dangerously getting close to forcing Lyle to the podium. Y'all need to.
Would you like to come up? If they have any further questions?
Yeah, I would. Lyle, can you come up and
Come on
address
up,
it?
Lyle. I'm appreciating Erskine on this, even though I'm not full of energy today. I like seeing Lyle in front of this podium.
I'd love to hear from Lyle. How are you?
Good. Question specific?
Well, yeah, I just want to get more. It seems like that is something a data set that would be needed in order to address this question. So is it a time series over a period of time that you have 2025 and it's going to have an end time, or what does it look like?
It will be incorporated into our regular monitoring program as
Okay.
as a species. As you see in our comments, it's been what we term anecdotal until now. And I don't want this to be, or we don't want this to be taken as an argument. It shouldn't be interpreted as an argument against putting on something from a precautionary principle for this. However, we're very data-driven, and we do not have the data to show what is before you today. And with species that have more robust data sets, we can come to you based on the models and such, and say, here's the amount of fish that you need to look at, and here's how you should apportion those, or at least give you some guidance on that. We can't do that for this species. So just from purely a scientific and monitoring perspective, that's what we're presenting to you today. We're not arguing against any precautionary principle from based on other metrics for this species. Did that answer?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think, we need the information in order to make an informed decision at this point. So that data would be critical from my perspective in moving forward possibly with something like this. So
We're changing our monitoring a little bit to accommodate this because we see the need and we see the importance and such. And so that we'll be beginning to give some more detail for this specific species in the future.
thank you.
I was just gonna say, I was sitting here waiting to see if they were gonna pin you on a position here. I knew better than that. Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Any more questions from the commission?
Okay. I'll just put up. So this is where we're at. We can go back to public comment.
Yes, absolutely. Back to you, sir. Sorry, I jumped the gun there a little bit.
okay.
I like having that slide in front of me. I can stay in order. Please
It's
raise your
good
right
to
hand.
see, yeah.
You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Robert Allen, Reston, Virginia.
Proceed.
So thank you for hearing us. I've been involved in CCA for over 20 years. Wayne is our subject matter expert. I'm not going to go through all of the presentation points that he made. I thought that was, he did an excellent job in preparing. Part of the challenge we've had is not only preparing our position, but educating. CCA educates quite a bit throughout the country in our various chapters, and it felt like there was a lot of that being done today. I wanted to, I guess, give you my personal view on hickory shad. I was also at Fish the James River. I'm not sure if I was at the 14th Street Bridge, but my son, who lives on the Mattaponi River, we fished the Mattaponi for hickory shad. We fished the James earlier this year, and we have a lot of friends from Northern Virginia who fished the Occoquan run of the hickory shad. To the best of my, we're mostly a catch and release type organization. Most of the people are not keeping fish. Our point was, hey, we probably know the science isn't all perfectly, together right now, but to keep it as an unlimited take doesn't make sense to me. And I was really surprised when I first learned that, we can go and catch 3,000 hickory shad and put them into our tractor trailer in one day if we could. We know that's not probably possible, but you're allowed to do that by the current law. We thought that was, as Wayne stated earlier, we're not looking for a moratorium, we're looking for a guardrail. So our position is, and why we put a lot of effort, volunteer effort, by the way, where nobody's paid staff at CCA, was to bring this up, educate, and hopefully, have a common sense approach to putting some guardrails in place. So that's all. We're just, trying to help improve and protect the hickory shad for the future.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the commission for the speaker? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to comment on the petition for hickory shad at this time? All right. That being said, petitioner.
There's a question.
I'm sorry. Who's coming forward?
Volunteer to make a supportive comment for the
Come on up. That's what the question was. If you're in support, you got to get up here.
Raise my hand, thank you.
You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
I'm Tom Dunlap. I'm with the James River Association. I just want to also express supportive comments for this management of recreational catch limits for hickory shad. I think that successful management and common sense guardrails are appropriate, and also as they are very similar in appearance to American shad, which are in dire straits in the James River. We as an organization would like to see more data and some management of hickory shad that could hopefully overlap and benefit American shad as well through those incidental catches. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions for the speaker? Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Raise your hand so I can see you this time. We good? All right, back to the petitioner for closing
Ryan,
comments.
if you'd like to come back up.
We want to thank you for listening to us and considering the petition. I would like to say that one of the problems with fisheries management, quite frankly, is that we wait for data. And when we don't have data, we don't take action. What we have is a fishery where there is an uncontrolled take. We got into doing this because we saw many people taking cooler after cooler of hickory shad out of the river. Okay, they fill up a cooler, take it to their truck or car, come back with another cooler or empty cooler and taking more. When we got into the petition, we became aware that there was some subsistence fishery, but quite frankly, the hickory shad are not a social program. And if there are folks that are in need, they certainly need to be addressed. But we think that conservation of the species is the best way to ensure that there are fish for people who need a subsistence and for recreational fishing. And we don't think we should wait for data to put up guardrails, because then we have striped bass, you know, with the problems we're having there, with a depressed population with many competing sources for the fish, and waiting for data to make a decision, and all of a sudden the fishery starts collapsing, and we have to play catch up. We don't want to play catch up. We want to conserve this stock so that it's available for everyone into the future with a take. We're not asking no take. We're asking for a reasonable take, and to the degree there is a subsistence fishery, potentially you could have some kind of a permit program similar to how I think there's something like that in the James for American shad for the watermen, where you can take a certain amount of shad. We didn't ask for that because that's an additional management issue with resource requirements and so forth, but that is a potential way to address a subsistence fishery to the extent that that needs to be addressed. Again, we thank you for your consideration. Whichever way you go, we hope you go in favor of guardrails that we're asking for, but we respect the Commission's decision in any case. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is there any questions for the petitioner? Thank you again, sir. Thank you so much. All right. That being said, the matter is before the commission.
I would like to just make one other clarifying remark about this process. There's been numbers sort of proposed. We don't have to say yes to that specific number. This is, like, we could set a different number. That's all I'm saying.
So basically, what you're saying is the petition could be considered of some sort of Creole limit, regardless
Yes.
of what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, we kind of had planned to go down that rabbit hole if it was a yes, and then we would document what the commission would like us to bring forward.
Let's see what the temperature is. So, Mr. Branson.
Commissioner, I just have a problem. I respect the petition process and CCA's effort over the years to bring this forward and educate, as Mr. Allen said, and I think he's done exactly that. He's brought awareness to this fishery. He's brought awareness to VIMS, who are going to add it into additional studies that they're currently doing. And I think that's good, but on the less good side, there is no science that says this is a problem. I get it. People take coolers home and feed them. I'm a little bit taken back by a comment from Mr. Young about not a social program. I find that a bit offensive. As you know, I go to great lengths to research these methods before the commission, and this was no exception. I'm just concerned that if we get on a path or we start an effort where we decide to set guardrails, if I'll use their term, around a fishery that hasn't a stock assessment, a stock plan, a management plan, a sustainment level, then where do we go next? Do we go to commercial crabbing and say, I don't like crab pots being close to my dock, my shore. I think they're too close together, they get in my way. And we set an arbitrary regulation on that. Or do we go to the aquaculture industry where there may not be enough regulation because I don't think I like it here? Or we go to, pick another fishery and say, I'm not sure I like that. We initiate a petition and we start setting up regulations, creel limits or other regs without any backing behind it. We should be science-driven. We have a science opinion from VMS that it's not necessary, and that's pretty much where I stand. I think Mr. Headley has something.
I totally agree with Mr. Bransom. And on that note, I make a motion to deny the petition.
I'll second it.
Got a motion to deny from Mr. Headley. Deny the petition. Got a second from Mr. Branson. Mr. Erskine?
Thanks, Josh. I want to thank the petitioner for bringing it to VMRC. It seems like it's been quite a long process, and appreciate VIM's taking the time to have public comment as well. I think it seems to be premature for any kind of management at this point. A lot of these comments that I'm looking at consider that it seems to be an abundance of hickory shad that are out there, indicated by takes, and people are catching, hickory shad. I'm interested in the data series that, VIMS is going to come up with, and I think we should act upon that rather than acting today. So I support the motion.
Thank you. Any more discussion on the motion? We have a motion by Mr. Headley to deny the petition, properly seconded by Mr. Branson. Any further discussion? All those in favor of denying the petition, the motion to deny the petition, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for your time. Do you want me to just stay in order and do public comment for Mr. Eanes at the end? They're ready.
It's really up to you.
I'll just wait. Keep going, Josh. Keep going.
Okay. So I'm here to do the second thing. I'm still Joshua McGilly. I'm here to now do a public hearing, a proposal to amend Chapter 4 VAC 20-252-10, titled Pertaining to Atlantic Striped Bass, to adjust the commercial Chesapeake Bay striped bass quota from 983,393 pounds to 914,555 pounds. So the coastwide Atlantic striped bass stock is currently in a rebuilding plan with a deadline of 2029. This is Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission, ASMC. This is their rebuilding plan. Today's public hearing concerns the delayed implementation of the 2024 Chesapeake Bay commercial striped bass quota reduction. Based on the recently completed stock assessment update results from ASMFC, Striped Bass Management Board is considering management measures for 2025. Potential reductions in measurements have yet to be determined. So again, the ASMFC Striped Bass Board voted to approve Addendum 2 to Amendment 7 to the Interstate Fisheries Management Plan for Atlantic striped bass in January 24th of 2024, so earlier this year. Addendum 2 decreased commercial striped bass quotas by 7% in Virginia's ocean and commercial bay commercial fisheries for striped bass. VMRC approved the required ocean commercial quota reduction on March 26th of 2024. So now we are going back and adjusting the bay quota. The 2024 Virginia Chesapeake Bay commercial striped bass season started January 16th of 2024 for the ASMFC board vote. Therefore, the Chesapeake Bay quota reduction was delayed until the 2025 commercial season. This delay was approved by the Striped Bass Management Board, and any quota overage during the 2024 season would require a pound-for-pound payback in 2025. We brought this to the ASMFC board looking at our historical landings, that our commercial bay landings are usually do not come anywhere close to what even the reduced quota would be. And due to the logistics of people already having their bay tags, we presented this idea to the ASMFC board to delay this reduction listed quota in our regulation until now. And they agreed with the contingency that if any overage did take place, it would be paid back next year. So this change will take place in Section 4 VAC 20-252-150, titled Individual Commercial Harvest Quota. In subsection A, the commercial Chesapeake Bay quota, currently listed at 983,393 pounds, listed twice, will be striked out and updated with the new reduced quota of 914,555 pounds, and this is on page 9 of the regulation. On top of this, going through the striped bass regulation, we found a section that we were able to kind of completely strike out to reduce regulatory burden on commercial striped bass fishermen. This is in Section 4 VAC 20-252-160, titled Individual Transferable Shares and Tagging, on page 14. Subsection F, this very long paragraph that I'm not going to read, just mentions that currently commercial striped bass harvesters that hold ocean and bay quota cannot have their tags in possession in any sort of way together at the same time. So say if somebody up on the Eastern Shore wants to have their Chesapeake Bay tags, season starts earlier, they fish earlier, they would have to get those. The fish start running in the ocean. They would like to start fishing their ocean quota. They would have to come back to VMRC and flip the tags, have the ones they're turning in stored here, take the other ones and kind of come back and forth. This is removing this subsection F just makes it so they can pick up their tags, have them at their house or wherever they store them at the same time. Subsection 160B still has language regarding not having the tags on the boat at the same time, though. So there would still be no way for them to fish both quotas at the same time. And I just pulled the numbers. 15 commercial harvesters do currently hold ocean and bay quota. So it's a pretty small number of harvesters that have both. So staff recommends the commission approve amendments to Chapter 4 VAC 20-252-10, titled Pertaining to Atlantic Striped Bass, to reduce the commercial Chesapeake Bay quotas by 7% from 983,393 pounds to 914,555 pounds as mandated by ASMFC, and remove Section 160, subsection F, to allow commercial striped bass quota holders to hold both Chesapeake Bay and coastal tags simultaneously. We have received one public comment on both of these issues in support of the changes. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Josh. Mr.
Questions?
Baines.
Josh, thank you very much. I think the regulation with allowing the 15 harvesters with both tags, I think that's great. It eats the burden on them, and it removes a regulation we don't probably need. About the rockfish, though, the primary issue with rockfish and their decline was in the stock assessment that was done not too long ago. What was the primary reason for that? Was it recreational release mortality coast-wide? Not necessarily Virginia, but coast-wide?
So I'm actually going to have my co-partner. I'm no longer on the striped bass TC, but Dr. Brooke Lohman, she is currently sitting on the TC, so I'm going to kick that question over to her.
Welcome, Dr. Lohman.
Brooke, thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you all again.
So, the understanding is coast-wide rockfish are in a bit of a jam.
Certainly.
And so what's the primary driver of that?
I would hesitate to say what the primary driver is. I wouldn't want to put a causal mechanism on it. What I can tell you is that roughly 80% of removals are from the recreational sector.
Right.
Roughly 40%, 40 to 50% are from release mortality.
Yeah, that's what I understood from reading some reports. And then we've had, I think you briefed this 2 months ago, that we've had a poor recruitment of striped bass for about the last 6 years or 7 years.
Yes, sir.
So that doesn't add any, that doesn't help, certainly.
Correct. We do not have any strong year classes coming in after next year.
Okay, yeah, that's all I had, sir.
Any more questions for the good doctor? Thank you so much, Brooke. Appreciate you. Any more questions for Josh? I'm sorry. I was reading it.
I have a couple loose questions, Josh,
Right.
if you can help me out as I go through this. So, in regards to the commercial side, and I'm going to speak very open if that's okay. If somebody told me I was going to potentially have a 7% decrease in salary, I'd find a new job. And in looking at that, I look at almost 69,000 pounds taken off quota. What was the actual catch last year, statewide, commercial-wise?
I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I believe it was somewhere around 80% of our quota was
Okay.
caught in 2023.
So we didn't touch the top of the quota, but that's not to say that we could. And I just have a hard time looking through the lens from the work side of having to give up something that they didn't disturb. And so they're easy to manage, right? So we can cut their quota back, we can cut their quota back because they're managed. The recreational side has no management as far as any kind of, other than maybe an honest person wanting to call in and report their catch, which they're not required to do. I look at 69,000 pounds, which is a round-up figure. It correlates to roughly about the end of, potentially around $206,000 worth that's taken off the waterman's market itself. That doesn't count the fillet market once it goes out. And so that's averaged at about $3 a pound, which is kind of typical of the average late season. I understand we have to do something, but I feel like a 7% decrease on the commercial side for when the commercial side hasn't hit it or have no reason to. I don't. It's just the easy thing to do. I guess that's more or less what I'm getting at. It's easy to decrease the commercial quota because there's regulations in that instead of developing regulations on the recreational side to potentially control that, like in other states where maybe it's tag and red drum on the recreational side, where those tags are issued for the recreational fishermen. We have no way to manage the recreational catch. And then further, there's so many ways I could see making a 7% decrease on the catch without actually changing the quota. And there's whether that's regulations as far as on the recreational fishermen or even on the commercial guys, depending on the time of the year in Virginia waters, I'm going to quote they are releasing fish that are either dead, and so it takes two fish to make one tag, to use one tag at times, or even maybe more than that. I just hate to hit on them. For what reason? They didn't.
Hold on, I'm going to address Mr. Preston real quick.
I mean, I can.
And let me comment real quick
Go
on that.
down
I got
the
this.
hall,
This is a move, an action that was taken by ASMFC. These concerns were brought up at ASMFC by our staff and by Maryland staff and, and PRC as well. They have representatives on there. It was brought up. The vote went forward with a 7% cut, even though we voiced our concerns on that. We also voiced, Chief Gear was there, he's not present, he also voiced his concerns on doing it when we did it because the cut actually already came in.
Right.
We're just addressing it now because we had already given our quote out. So they put us in, ASMSC put Virginia in a really peculiar spot here, not just us, Maryland and PRC were put in the same situation we are. And so we get it and totally understand that, but the vote went this way. And if the commission decides not to do a 7% or anything like that, go a different route, we could be out of compliance.
What's that, so what's, Mr. Commissioner, what's that timeline for that out of compliance? Because if it requires a little bit of extra work from my view, my opinion, I don't know because I wasn't on the commission at this point, at that point. So
Out of compliance is not necessarily something you want to
or
do.
I'm not entertaining going out of compliance. How long do I have? January 1st?
They've already passed it. So if we don't go in compliance, they could, Secretary of Commerce could declare us out of compliance and. you would not
Understood.
be
What's
able to
that date? Is that January 1st that we need to be in compliance for the upcoming season?
Yeah.
That's my question.
I mean, we should, if we go over, we're going to be out of compliance. That's the problem. And to know exactly whether or not you're over is, you won't know that until the data comes in.
Right, understood.
So,
I'm not aware of any like grace period
It's not.
that ASMFC has on compliance.
It is a relatively quick process.
it's all up to the Secretary of Commerce.
Yeah, ASMFC pretty much kicks this. We have to do this. They find out that we had not done it. They would immediately send a letter to the Secretary of Commerce, and I feel like there's another group too. I can't remember.
It goes directly to the governor's office.
Yeah, and then
as
it goes directly to the governor's office.
Understood. It's, when I start looking at dollar values from the commercial side, that 206 is a drop in a bucket in the big scheme of things. It also drives up that market price fish on the shelf because of this. I understand. So we need to make a change based off of something that came earlier this year,
From
correct?
ASMFC.
And so we're proceeding with that. It's very unfortunate that we're proceeding with that on the commercial side, where we had however many months to come up with regulations, and now we're at the point now where we're making a plan. Our plan forward is to make the cut on the commercial guys.
Not necessarily. The ASMFC voted to take the 7% cut.
Yeah, we didn't have any, not to talk over you,
Right, go ahead,
Commissioner
please.
Green. We really had no say in this. Once the board voted, this was a coast-wide change that took place from North Carolina to Maine.
Understood.
And recreational also took, it was 14-point-something%
Yes, that's correct.
reduction as well, which we've already put into place. Yeah, we had no sort of wiggle room for this.
And the reason, let me clarify. Just give me a second. The reason you're doing it now is because we're getting ready to give our quote out for next year in January. We couldn't do it last year because we already gave the quote out. So if we don't do it now, we're going to release the quote and potentially be out of compliance. We're addressing it now in due time so we don't give that quote out and potentially be over. Last year, we were put in a really bad spot because we had already given the quote out.
And then you would have to repay that potential overage.
that's right.
I totally understand, and I don't want to be out of compliance either, nor do I want to see fish have to be kept inside of the state, not be sold out of state if we're outside of compliance. I understand all that. It's a shame. I guess a lot of this is just my opinion, and I'm several days late, months late in sharing.
In Virginia's entire defense and the Bay's defense, the original addendum when it came out only addressed recreational. And they changed it from that spring into the fall. And Chief Gear made the comment, if you were going to do this on commercial, you should have gave us more time to prepare.
Yes.
And it just didn't happen with the vote. And so where we're at because of how, like Mr. McGilly said, because of how the vote turned out, not necessarily because we didn't participate in the process and give them our concerns. Our concerns were heard. It just didn't have any influence on their decision. Mr. Erskine.
Thanks, Josh. The other jurisdictions that you mentioned from North Carolina to Maine, did they also take a reduction in the commercial quota to 7%?
Yes, every commercial fishery for striped bass took a 7% reduction. We just take it twice because we have two separate quotas.
And to kind of emphasize what Mr. McGilly said there, not every state from Maine to Florida has a commercial rock fishery.
So pretty much every state has a recreational fishery.
Right.
All took a cut across the board. And then any state that does have a commercial fishery had the same 7% reduction.
I can make a follow-up comment, not question. I think a lot of the comments, discussion on this board are very valid, and I'd suggest they get directed to ASMFC and the Strike Management Board during the meeting. You could do that virtually for the most part, or you can attend in person, but they're very valid comments, and I certainly think maybe Virginia could, the industry, this board, take a representation at some of those meetings and provide some of those comments would be valuable. I appreciate VMRC's ability to work for Virginia up there at the board and lessen the blow, let's say. So, thank you.
I will give it to Fisheries Division. They fought hard on this, on the commercial side, very, very hard, because the data wasn't showing that that was the issue. And obviously, at the end of the day, we didn't prevail, but Chief Gear and his staff were on this immediately, especially when it was originally intended to address the recreational discards of mortality rate and stuff. And it just turned out different from a regional perspective. And Maryland is in the same boat we're in, so is PRC. They're in the same exact boat we're in. BRC gives their tags out in the fall, by the way.
Yes.
They've already given their tags out, so they're in worse shape than we are. They gave them out twice before we could get it done. Any more questions? Thank you. I think we're good.
Yeah.
Is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak on this matter? Please go on. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Chris Moore, Chesapeake Bay Foundation. Thank you. I know this is a tough issue for the board to wrestle with. Striped bass have not been reacting to regulation as we hoped they would. If you go back to the early 80s, we did a number of things to try to conserve striped bass. Unfortunately, we did actually have a moratorium for a while, and the striped bass population responded very quickly. And in this case, ASMFC and you all have been trying for a couple of years to do that. You all got rid of our trophy fishery before we were directed to. Obviously, we took the 14% reduction in the recreational fishery earlier this year. As Commissioner Green said, our staff at ASMFC has advocated, I think, very well for Virginia. But at this point, striped bass are still, we just got a new stock assessment, are considered overfished. And so we're trying to get to a point where we get that fishery restored so it can come back both for the recreational fishermen and the commercial fishermen. And, in this case, Virginia had to take a 14% reduction in recreational, 7% in commercial. We've got another meeting coming up in December, unfortunately. But we'll probably see some more conservation measures in the future. And so this is probably, the first in multiple steps in doing this. And again, the implications for being out of compliance, no one wants to do that. And so as our letter stated, hope you all will follow staff recommendation and adopt this. And so thank you. I know it's a very tough issue to wrestle with. We're wrestling with it too because we, again, had hoped the fishery would respond like it did a couple of years ago when we started doing conservation, and it's been very slow to respond to management measures.
Any questions for the speaker? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Appreciate you. Is there anyone else in the audience wishes to speak at this time on the striped bass issue? All right. That being said, matter is before the commission.
I got a question.
Mr. Headley.
What actually happens if we are found out of compliance, especially to the fish that our watermen catch in the state?
If we're found out of compliance and the process is going through with the Secretary of Commerce notifies us that we're out of compliance, you can't ship any of your fish out of state, including your recreational fish. Like if somebody from Maryland comes to Virginia and goes fishing recreational, grabs a fish, he would be violating the Lacey Act going across the line. So that would be anybody with striped bass that are caught in Virginia.
Isn't it just also the case that if we were out of compliance and went over the quota that was set by ASMFC, we then have to
Pay it back.
pay that back by reducing the quota further to get back into compliance?
That's certainly that would be the avenue we would ask if we went over.
Yeah.
Is to pay it back. If we're found out of compliance, that's what we would ask. Hey, can we pay it back? Mr. Hand,
I'd like to make a motion
proceed.
that we follow staff recommendation and approve the changes.
Got a motion for Mr. Hand to approve the changes presented by staff with the 7% reduction. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Erskine. Any further discussion? So I have a motion to accept this staff presentation of 7% reduction. From Mr. Hand, I have a second from Mr. Erskine. No further comment. All those, I'm going to do a show of hands. All those in favor, raise your hand. I got, let the record reflect Mr. Hand, Ms. Kellum, Mr. Erskine, Mr. Bransom, Mr. Preston, and Mr. Headley. Unanimous. Y'all blew me away on that one.
So then,
Stuck me between a rock and a hard spot, Mr.
Well,
Commissioner.
I'm gonna do you a solid, and everybody else a solid. I'm gonna introduce you to Robert T. Brown and let you have that conversation with him, because he has the same feeling.
so just to close out, I didn't want to put this before the vote to introduce any more possible confusion. So with the timeline of the potential 2025 management changes, Mr. Erskine brought up the idea that, getting involved, setting out public comments. There's a meeting on December 5th. It is a public webinar being sponsored by ASMFC. And then December 10th is the deadline for written public comments regarding any changes that they do discuss on the meeting on the 5th. ASMFC advisory panel meeting is on December 9th, and then ASMFC board meeting specifically to talk about striped bass is taking place on December 16th, and any changes will come back in front of the commission in winter of 2025.
Thank you, Josh. Is there any questions for Josh? I usually don't ask if there's any questions for him. It seemed like everybody was really interested.
Can I have yes, I have a question, and it is striped bass.
We're gonna
Josh.
censor you at some point.
I'm sure Mike's gonna get cut off. No, but just real quick, so as far as looking into that further conservation piece in regards to the recreational side, what are we actively taking steps towards making something a little bit more concrete in comparison to the commercial side? I mean, and you don't have to necessarily. More or less, I'm planting the seed, or I'm just making a mention here that it needs to be something that can easily take a hit on too as well, that can be tracked. And so,
Maybe coming up. I'm gonna kick
Yeah,
this
but how
one
do you
off back
control
to
that?
Dr. Lohman again, since she's on the TC.
Yeah,
Yes,
please state your name for the record, Dr. Lohman.
So, sure, I can go into that. I know that you mentioned earlier that there aren't really any recreational regulations. I would point out that we do have size and bag limits.
Yes,
We have
ma'am.
seasons. So it would be those same sorts of measures. The board has the option to look at various additional measures. Unfortunately, with striped bass, we are at a point, we're at a very limited number of options onto how you can change anything else recreationally. We're at about a 3-inch slot limit. You're at a 1-fish bag limit. Really, the only thing left that you could change and make a lot of difference would be closing seasonal closures. So that's on the table. The board has asked for us to look into different size changes, so there will be some options there. The board has also asked to see options for if the commercial and recreational sectors would take a split reduction, as has been done in the past, or if the recreational fishery would be asked to take the full reduction, given how much more of the fishery is recreational. So all of those options, all of those calculations have been laid out and put together into a 45-page draft document that the board will have soon. So I don't want to stand here and try to go through those options or give those options to you. That's not going to be helpful because we can't vote on those anyway. But those are the types of things that are open for the board to discuss, and that'll be discussed in more detail on that public webinar if anyone wants to sign in for that.
Well, thank you. The seasons, I would hate to ever see my own children not be able to get on a skiff in my backyard and not have an opportunity to catch one, but understanding that maybe sometimes that might come to a point where it did in my stint of time myself. But I just feel like we're going to have the same conversations no matter where we put that slot based on reporting. There's not a requirement to report. I can't go out, change the subject just a little bit, I can't go out and bag, I'm going to use good language, I can't go out and bag an antlered deer the rest of this year because I've used all my state-issued tags. So therefore, I'm just hoping my kids get one at this point. And so there's a way for me that's controlled as I'm controlled by the state on that. I can't go out and buy it. It's not because the season isn't long enough. It's based on the fact of how many tags they issue today. Same way in the commercial world as well. So anyhow, I look forward to seeing that package. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brooke. Appreciate you.
I have a question.
Mr. Hand?
I was looking earlier, mentioned, as I understood, 80% mortality with rockfish, striped bass is due to recreational fishing, and 40 or 50% of the total mortality is due to release mortality.
Yes, sir, that is what I said, and I grabbed my notes in between so I can update myself. Our recreational release is 40% and recreational harvest is 49% of the total removals.
So,
Sorry to have cut you off, go on.
Yeah, so 40% of 80%, 32% of mortality.
Not 40% of the 80%. In total, 40% is release mortality, 49% is from recreational harvest, with the remaining 10 point some odd percent with rounding error is from commercial harvest and discard together.
Thank you. So, I mean, I'd like to look for a solution, even if it's something very difficult to enforce, where you set a limit on how many fish you can land. So in other words, it's nearly impossible to enforce, but a lot of anglers would respect and maybe honor a limit like that, because that's a huge number. When you're talking 40% of the loss of striped bass comes from fish that are released. So if we could make any impression on that, it makes a huge difference. What we were talking about today, if commercial is only 11%, we're talking about a 7% reduction, that's like a point, what is that?
It's very little, yes,
I
yes.
mean, it's minutia, but if we could impact 5 or 10% of that release mortality, we'd really be doing something. So just of anglers who would respect the law and do it on their own. Let's say there was a limit of, if you can't catch and release more than 6 fish.
I would make this recommendation. They have a meeting on the 16th. There's more data. Then it comes in different waves. Wave 4 data's coming. We're waiting to get that. Not going to comment on what it looks like preliminary-wise. Let's see what the data looks like. Let the TC do their job. And then when it comes back, we can, if you want them to have information for the commission to present at a meeting early on, maybe in the spring or something, that could be fine. I mean, I think, Brooke, could you put some information for us together in say, a February meeting to see what the status is?
Sure, yeah, I can work
From the December 16th meeting, because they'll have more data that they use at that point, at that meeting, in the December 16th meeting. I don't want to do it in January, it's just too close, but just do it, if that's okay with you, because
That's fine.
to see where we're at and see what they say from the December 16th, because we can say what we want here. It doesn't change what ASFFC does.
Well, I'm just reaching out there for a solution, because the reductions, make some impact. In my opinion, it's relatively small impact compared to what we might be able to do with the amount of fish released that are killed.
Absolutely.
And in other states like Maryland, I hear that the mortality rate for released fish during the summer in Maryland is through the roof. So if other states would follow at all, it would have even a greater impact. Putting it out there.
I'll just share, Commissioner, that when it comes to striped bass, I don't like seeing the commercial side cut, but in the recreational side, we're quickly running out of options.
Absolutely.
With a 3-inch slot size. There's seasonal closures, as Brooke mentioned, and no trophy season anymore. We tried a striped bass landing permit years ago for a trophy fishery. We've eliminated all of that. When you start getting into 3-inch slot size and seasonal closures, you're pretty, and not a good recruitment over years and high release mortality across the entire coastline, you're running out a whole lot of options.
Yeah, I won't speak for the entire coast, but I agree with Associate Member Ransom here. As far as the bay goes, Virginia has the most restrictive recreational measures too. Now, we have the most restrictive recreational striped bass regulations. I would say probably on the coast, but definitely on the bay. Because some of them don't have quite like Maine is not going to have such a robust fishery in comparison to New Jersey. So, but ours is much more heavily regulated. So, thank you, Brooke. Appreciate you. I'm going to take a personal privilege as chairman and move on at this point. Well, Mr. Preston bring us up with another question. All right, Alicia Nelson.
Good morning.
Good morning, Alicia. How are you doing?
Not bad. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alicia Nelson. I'm with our Fisheries Management Division, and I'm here bringing to you recommendations from our Commercial Fishing Advisory Board. Our CFAB advises the Commission on expenditures from the Marine Fishing Improvement Fund. You may hear us refer to that as our commercial fund, and that is made up of sales of Virginia commercial fishing licenses. That board met on November 6th to review 4 funding applications. All of those applications are ongoing projects. In other words, they're multi-year projects, but we do review them by the board and approve them at the Commission each year. 3 of the applications are traditionally split funded from both the commercial and the analogous recreational license fund. And just to note, on the recreational side, the board and the Commission already approved those portions of those projects this fall. Here are 4 applications. Item A is our federal assistance or sport fish matching funds. That supports a suite of research projects, and a lot of the data collected in those research projects are these things that we've been discussing about meeting fisheries management plan mandates. That includes our striped bass data that we collect through, that VMS collects as part of these programs. It includes our shad and herring research as well. Also, we have the Young of Year American Eel Project, also meeting an FMP mandate, a fisheries management plan mandate. The boat scarring effects for submerged aquatic vegetation in Virginia, that's monitoring scarring patterns caused by propellers over the years. And finally, the biological monitoring of river herring. This is an add-on project. This is the only project that is commercially funded only. And this is an add-on to one of those federal projects listed in item A that we realized a few years ago that we can complete both of these species, several species in one project by adding on this $40,000 for staff time. All 4 of these expenditures totaled equal $118,656 from that fund. So just our staff recommendation is the Commercial Fishing Advisory Board recommended funding all 4 programs totaling $118,656 from the Marine Fishing Improvement Fund. Any questions?
Mr. Erskine.
A question about item C with the boat scarring in the SAV. There was a time, I recall, a presentation, kind of an update as to what that data looked like. Are we going to have one of those? Is that in the pipeline to get an update?
Yep. Dr. Worth has since retired. It's Dr. Patrick from VMS, and he is prepared to make that presentation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I was getting ready to call Lyle back up to the podium, maybe 2 times in one day. Any more questions, Alicia? Thank you, Alicia. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on these matters for the Marine Fishing Improvement Fund? For or against? All right, that being said, matters before the commission.
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
Got a motion to approve the recommendations from Mr.
Second.
Headley. Got a second from, who was that the second? Mr. Bransom? Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries to approve all these projects recommended by staff and CFAB. Thank you, Alicia. All right, we'll bring back up Mr. Kenyon and Mr. Eames from public comment. Where we left off was how many years has it been since he had his user fee?
I was able to speak with Mr. Eanes in the hallway and pull up his information within our system. The last time he did purchase the license was in 2019, so if we're looking to back pay licenses, it would be 2020 through 2024. Another correction for the record that we spoke about, I looked through his summons history. He only has one summons on his history from 2015, quite a while ago, leaving the dock before sunrise. He has paid his user fee every year, going back 2013 all the way through 2019, so 2020 would be the first year that he did miss that.
Thank you, Adam. Any questions for Adam? Mr. Erskine?
I just have a question of the request. So in terms of the harvest in the oyster fishery prior to 2019, were you active in the fishery?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any further questions? All right, that being said, I mean,
Does my motion still stand?
all right, make a motion. Now the motion, we went back to discussion.
Motion to approve Mr. Eanes getting his oyster user feedback, with him paying back through 2020 until now.
Second. Got a second from Mr. Bransom. Got a motion to approve reinstatement of oyster user fee, providing caught up in previous years in payment. By Mr. Headley. Got a second from Mr. Bransom. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, so what you have to do is pay the last 5 years of user fee, this year and the previous 4, and you're back reinstated. Thank you. All right. There being no further business on the agenda, I want to wish everybody a happy holiday season. Please be safe. Have a happy new year. I look forward to seeing y'all in 2025. Wow. I was writing down exactly how long it had been since 2019, because I was like, he's got about 5 years. 2019 seems like yesterday. So thank you all. It's been a great year, 2024. I look forward to working with you. Always great to see you, Chris. Sorry I couldn't see you last night. I know I'm going to see a lot of you in the next coming months. I appreciate everybody on this board. Be safe. That being said, the next commission meeting will be held on Tuesday, January 28th, 2025.